we eventually came to the States, and I landed at the University of Notre Dame, Indiana, right in the middle of the winter. In the midst of that, when hardly anyone knew us, at that point a miracle happened. One of the ladies by the name Lakshmi, she used to run satsang, Sathya Sai Satsang at her home. She got a dream by Baba asking her to invite that woman who was pregnant with her first child. And nobody knew us at the time, but somehow it so happened that my wife was the only person who fitted that description. We got to know, and we started visiting her satsang.
Sairam, dear listeners, welcome to Sai SOUL 100. Our guest today is Brother Probal Banerjee, who is joining us from Staten Island, New York. Sairam, Brother Probal, thank you for joining Sai SOUL 100.
Thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor and it's a blessing for me.
Thank you, Sairam. Please share your story.
I was raised in a non-ritualistic and scientifically oriented family, which made me slightly different from many of the other traditionally oriented people. Right from my early childhood, I had a scientific bent of mind, and what happens as a result is I would question everything. But at the same time, I had the interesting trait of being interested in writing poetry and being fascinated by nature. So this is how I was growing up. And at some point in time, my mother, who became more and more interested in Swami, had she was a homeopath doctor, and she ran a homeopathic clinic um, through the Sai Samiti, local Sai Samiti. And I was very stubbornly anti-Sai at that time. And it was whatever it is, I think my ego was running very high. So the thing is that at that point in time, I was questioning everything, but it took me a while to uh, undergo some kind of a change that Swami had ordained me to undergo, basically. So after my high school and college, I moved to Bangalore for my PhD at the Indian Institute of Science. And what happened there was very interesting. Initially, the friends that I had, they actually fueled my anti-Sai position, and I became pretty strongly anti-Sai. And then I watched one person, that is uh, Narasimhaya, who was the vice chancellor of the Bangalore University. He came to our institute and gave a talk on challenging Sai. So it was very interesting. That was kind of confusing. But at the same time, one of my lab colleagues wanted me to accompany her to Whitefield to see Swami. She was a Swami devotee. So off we went, and I saw Swami from a very short distance. There were much fewer people in 1976, 77. So it was much easier to get close to Sai. But what I did was pretty awful. I really glowered at Sai. And Swami, what he did was he just ignored me and went past. So this is how this happened. And then later on, my parents came, wanted to visit Puttaparthi. So I took them, accompanied them and went to Puttaparthi several times. On one of those visits, I had the blessing of witnessing the Shivaratri materializations. And during this time, Swami used to have carry out the Lingodbhavam and also anoint an effigy and a murti of Sri Sai with vibhuti, which would pour from an empty urn, which was turned upside down above Sri Sai's murti's head. So this was, I watched it from a distance of like 20 feet. So the interesting thing is, even that what it did was it made me be convinced that it is indeed miracle and not magic. So that so basically even then I was stubbornly against Sai. And then after that we eventually came to the States and I landed at the University of Notre Dame, Indiana, right in the middle of the winter, the huge winter. And Notre Dame, South Bend is a bigger city. Notre Dame is a university township in the middle of that. It gets completely covered with snow, all dumped from the Michigan Lake evaporation. So, in the midst of that, when hardly anyone knew us, at that point a miracle happened. One of the ladies by the name Lakshmi, she used to live in South Bend, Indiana. She used to run uh, satsang, Sathya Sai satsang at her home. She got a dream by Baba. Baba asking her to invite that woman who was pregnant with her first child. And nobody knew us at the time, but somehow it so happened that my wife was the only person who fitted that description. And then words traveled, and finally we got to know, and we started visiting her satsang. And she would read at the end of bhajans, she would read from Sai literature. And what I would do is I would argue and question at every point. But what did start at that point is I started reading Sai literature. And that again brought the crucial turning point. And this again took several years, and years rolled by, and then we moved from Notre Dame to University of Chicago, and there we used to attend uh, Sai Satsang and bhajans in the Oak Park Center. And there I got to know a number of people. And since I sing, I was able to sing many bhajans and pick up many bhajans. Interestingly, something happened way back when my mother used to hold bhajans at home. At that point in time, I was totally anti-Sai, but one bhajan that one of the devotees sang at that time got etched in my mind. And I still remember that bhajan, and I occasionally sing that. Remember, I was completely anti-Sai at that time, but somehow Sai was there with me, although I was not, I was trying to avoid him. So, so this is then coming back to Chicago, and then finally, Swami made me switch to a vegetarian life, and then finally made me land a faculty job in New York in the CUNY system. And living in Staten Island, I started attending satsangs at the Brooklyn Center initially. So then further, a few more years rolled by, and I started taking my two daughters, to the Brooklyn Center for Bal Vikas. And I used to sit through like another child in Bal Vikas, learning from them. So it was very interesting and thrilling experience. The daughters, they grew up, they left home for college and then their own lives. And at this point, I was running around with them earlier and still struggling to uh, basically balance between life and my research and teaching, etc. And once they left home, I passionately dove into my research with the goals of inventing some drugs and strategies to overcome two so far invincible forms of cancer. So basically, this is something that started, but I hadn't yet submitted myself or surrendered myself. So then, after Brooklyn, after my children left, I started attending the Metropolitan Center in New York. And this is by and large a Spanish center. So I learned a number of these Spanish bhajans, which I still sing with tremendous gusto. And in 2018, I reached a point when I realized that I need to surrender. Surrender means really surrender and hand over the reins to Swami. So since then, many different things have happened. COVID had come and gone, and lots of research labs got closed as a result. Many destructive things did happen, but interestingly, Swami um, allowed me to wade through the trouble. Whenever there was a tense situation that I almost was facing complete shutdown on my lab, somehow Swami has um, made me come through the situation. And more, I have been able to rely on him and leave the reins to him. But do I get stressed out when things don't happen in the right way? I do. Even when I know deep inside that Swami will take care of it, I do my part by trying to push things through because otherwise, especially in a state system, things don't move. So I have to very politely and nicely cajole people to get things done. And this is how it's happening. And Swami has really brought me from a very brash kind of a state to a state when I can cajole without being brash. So sometimes people take it otherwise, but I really, earlier, I used to care a lot about what others would think. Now I don't. Now it is Swami who guides me and puts me through and takes me through every step. So I think that's how I'm going. Even very recently, I went through a tense situation because I have a research lab in which I have postdocs and doctoral students and master students and other researchers working whom I have to supervise. And the postdoc needs to be paid. And the payments, they come, I collaborate with two companies. The payments come from time to time. And sometimes there is a delay. and the delay can create a gap in the salary payment, so which puts me in if such a situation appears, and or I can see that if the delay occurs, that my postdoc will be in trouble. I do get anxious, but then I pray to Swami and try to cajole people so that things start moving faster. And they do. Eventually, they come through. Most recently, like today, right today, something got done so that my postdoc will continue getting paid from the 28th of July. So I think on the whole, I am convinced that Swami, I was avoiding Swami, but Swami didn't. Swami didn't avoid me. He he ignored me to put me in my place, but he was always with me. Sairam.
Sairam, Brother Probal, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's a very real story. Your parents, our parents, tend to become devotees of Swami in many cases, and as children, we tend to be judgmental of it and not necessarily believe in Swami. And you got to a point where you were actually anti-Swami. But even with that, you get to watch the Vibhuti Abhishekam live, where we only watch it through videos right now. And you knew it was a miracle, but it wasn't enough for you to fully be immersed into Swami. But it was a journey. And Swami took you on little by little. And then when you move to the US, it's a miracle where, somebody else has a dream about your wife and your child and calls you into the Sai fold, right? Through the children, through SSC. And then, of course, Swami is always with you. And like you said, although you were anti-Swami, we think in a worldly sense we are anti-Swami, but Swami is always with us, guiding. And he had certainly done that. And then now you're at a position where Swami is there with you at work, Swami is there with you at the Sai Center. And at the Metropolitan Sai Center. And I love the fact that the seeds were put in at your home when they were singing bhajans, although you were not ready to open your eyes to see it. But you, many years later, sing those same bhajans. It's such a blessing.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Brother Prabal, for being here for Sai Soul 100.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's an
Thank you.
honor to be a part of this.
Sairam, dear listeners, thank you for listening to Sai Soul 100 with Brother Probal Banerjee. I'm Prabha Swaminathan. Until next time, Jai Sairam.